Some moments in history are too powerful to forget, yet somehow we did. A 7-year-old girl shouting for freedom with a noose around her neck. Shadows of humans permanently burned into walls. A mother's tears after 3 years of hell. These stories are real. These people existed. And today, you're going to meet them. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll never look at history the same way again. August 6, 1945, Hiroshima. At exactly 8:15 inches the morning, everything changed. A single bomb called Little Boy detonated 600 meters above the city. Between 70,000 and 80,000 lives vanished in seconds. But here's what haunts me most. People didn't just die. Their shadows were permanently burned into stone walls. That's all that remained. A shadow where a human being once stood. 3 days later, Nagasaki suffered the same fate. Fat Man, a plutonium bomb, fell at 11:02 a.m. Over 70,000 more lives are gone. 2 cities, over 150,000 people died in an instant. The world had entered the atomic age, and humanity would never be the same. But nuclear weapons weren't the only thing killing people during World War II. Bengal, India. While war raged across Europe, 3 million people were dying in silence. British authorities diverted grain to support the war effort in Europe. The local population starved. Winston Churchill, when asked about it, controversially blamed what he called local breeding habits. 3 million people gone, and most of the world never even knew it was happening. This is what war really looks like. Not just soldiers on battlefields, but civilians starving in the streets while politicians make decisions thousands of miles away. Let me tell you about Lepa Radić. She was just 17 years old. A partisan fighter in Bosnia, February 8, 1943. Nazi soldiers captured her and prepared to hang her in public. They wanted to make an example of her. They wanted her to beg for mercy. She didn't. As the noose tightened around her neck, she shouted her final words. "Long live the partisans. Fight, people, for your freedom." A photographer captured that moment. Her face showed no fear, only defiance, only courage. She was 17 years old. That same year, 10-year-old George Davey in London was sentenced to 1 month of hard labor. His crime? Stealing 2 rabbits to feed his family. While a teenage girl died fighting for freedom, a child was thrown in prison for trying to survive. That was Victorian justice. Poverty was treated like a crime, but courage showed up in unexpected places. Street Augustine, Florida, June 18, 1964. The Monson Motor Lodge had a whites-only swimming pool. Black activists knew this. They jumped in anyway. The manager, James Brock, was photographed pouring acid into the pool. Acid, to force them out. The image shocked the nation. It showed the world exactly what segregation really meant. Just weeks later, America passed the Civil Rights Act. Sometimes, one photograph is all it takes to change a country. That same spirit of resistance echoed across time. In 1935, 3 Padang women from Burma sat in a London cafe wearing 25-pound brass neck coils. Locals whispered and stared, but these women sat with dignity. They refused to be ashamed of who they were. Different forms of defiance, same unbreakable spirit. Philadelphia, 1839. A man named Robert Cornelius stood outside his father's lamp shop. He set up a camera, removed the lens cap, ran into frame, stood perfectly still for several minutes, then ran back to replace the cap. He had just taken the world's first selfie. He had no idea he'd started something that would define modern culture 180 years later. Fast forward to 1907, Germany. An apothecary named Julius Neubronner had a brilliant idea. He attached tiny automatic cameras to pigeons and sent them flying over enemy territory. These birds became the world's first drones, capturing aerial reconnaissance photos for military use. From selfies to spy pigeons, human innovation knows no limits. By 1952, technology entered politics. During Eisenhower's presidential campaign, the teleprompter made its big debut. It had been invented 4 years earlier, but this was the moment it changed political communication forever. Politicians could now deliver perfect speeches while appearing to speak from the heart. The age of manufactured authenticity had begun. Manila, Philippines, February 1945. The 37th Infantry Division pushed through burning streets. The Battle of Manila raged for an entire month. When the smoke cleared, over 100,000 civilians were dead. 100,000 in one city, in 1 month. Most people have never even heard of it. Or consider the Nanjing Massacre, December 1937. Japanese troops entered the city. Over the next 6 weeks, at least 200,000 Chinese civilians and prisoners of war were killed. The scale of brutality was unimaginable, yet for decades, parts of the world tried to deny it ever happened. These aren't just numbers. Every single one was a human being, a mother, a father, a child, someone's entire world. Over 100,000 civilians were dead. 100,000. In one city, in 1 month. Most people have never even heard of it. Or consider the Nanjing Massacre, December 1937. Japanese troops entered the city. Over the next 6 weeks, at least 200,000 Chinese civilians and prisoners of war were killed. The scale of brutality was unimaginable, yet for decades, parts of the world tried to deny it ever happened. These aren't just numbers. Every single one was a human being, a mother, a father, a child, someone's entire world. Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. A surprise attack at dawn. Over 2,400 Americans were killed in hours. The United States entered World War II overnight. One morning changed the fate of the entire world. 20 years later, Stockholm, Sweden had its own historic morning. September 3rd, 1967. At exactly 5 a.m., 6 million drivers switched which side of the road they drove on. The entire nation rewired its habits in a single coordinated moment. Not a single traffic fatality was recorded. When people work together, incredible things become possible. But not all national moments were peaceful. Korea, 1953. A mother clutches her freed son. He'd been a prisoner of war for 3 years. Her tears tell a story. Words never could. Relief, trauma, love, loss, all in one embrace. The Korean War divided families that remain separated to this day. Or look at St. Petersburg, August 1991. Tens of thousands flooded the streets, demanding an end to communist rule. Tanks rolled into position, but they hesitated. The Soviet Union, one of history's most powerful empires, began to crumble. Sometimes courage defeats tanks. These moments remind us that freedom is never free. Someone always pays the price. Not all heroes wore uniforms. Betty White, photographed at home in 1952 with her dog, represented something different: warmth, kindness, genuine joy. She would become America's golden girl for 7 decades. In a world full of darkness, she chose to be light. Audrey Hepburn, shopping in Beverly Hills with her pet deer in 1958, showed us that grace and whimsy could coexist. These women proved that heroism doesn't always mean fighting battles. Sometimes it means bringing beauty and hope into a broken world. Moscow, July 1921. Valerian Abakovsky unveiled his masterpiece, the Aero Wagon, a train powered by an airplane propeller, reaching speeds of 140 kilometers per hour. It was revolutionary. It was the future of transportation. Hours later, it derailed near Serpukhov. 7 people died, including Abakovsky himself. He was only 26 years old. His dream died with him on the tracks. Sometimes innovation comes at a terrible cost. Similarly, in 1925 Berlin, inventors unveiled the yodel meter, a machine to measure vocal pitch. Newspapers mocked it as science gone mad, but it foreshadowed the audio technology revolution that would transform music, film, and communication forever. What seems crazy today might be commonplace tomorrow. Andersonville, Georgia, 1864. A 15-year-old drummer boy named Ransom Crandall died in a Confederate prison camp. One of the Civil War's youngest casualties, his grave remains there today, a reminder of the boys who never came home. But some did survive. Texas, 1959. A 116-year-old Civil War veteran sat on his porch smoking a cigar. He had outlived everyone he ever served with. He'd survived the bloodiest war in American history. And there he sat, stubborn and defiant, smoking his cigar days before death finally claimed him. Survival looks different for everyone. For Marianne Bevan in 1922 London, survival meant appearing in sideshows labeled "Ugliest Woman in the World." She had acromegaly. She needed to feed 4 children, so she endured the cruelty. She wore that title with dignity every single day. That's a different kind of courage. Sometimes, history turns on a single moment. The Titanic's first-class reading room, photographed in 1912 before departure. Those passengers had no idea that within days, they'd be at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, or consider Yuri Gagarin. March 27, 1968. The first human being to touch the stars. He died in a routine training flight crash. The man who conquered space, killed in a simple jet accident. Life's cruelty knows no logic. These moments remind us how fragile everything really is, how quickly triumph can turn to tragedy. Every single photograph you saw today represents a human story. Real people who lived, loved, fought, and died. Some showed incredible courage. Others faced unimaginable cruelty. But all of them mattered. All of them were real. History isn't just dates and facts in textbooks. It's the shadow burned into a wall in Hiroshima. It's a 17-year-old girl's final words before execution. It's a mother crying tears of relief as she holds her son again. It's a 10-year-old boy sentenced to prison for stealing rabbits to survive. These stories were hidden, forgotten, or deliberately erased, but photographs don't lie. They preserve truth even when the world tries to bury it. If this opened your eyes to stories you never knew existed, then my work here is done. Subscribe so you never miss another piece of hidden history brought back to light. Share this with someone who needs to see it, because these stories deserve to be remembered. The past is never really past. It echoes in everything we do today, and these images remain its loudest voice.